Welcome once again, everyone. Like I said earlier before Titi joined, we're supposed to have also James join as well. I don't know if he will be joining us. Like I mentioned before Titi joined us, I understand I strayed around some terminologies during our last class, and there was a review that I should try to carry everybody along and not assume that everybody is a professional cloud user here. So before we jump into excuse me, Azure DevOps today, I know I said we were going to start practicalizing today, if that's a word. But again, I'll try my best to walk us through how applications are being built and then deployed traditionally. So I'll try my best to try to draw around. You should not mind my drawing now, because using a whiteboard is not like using drawing manually with your hand. So before an application is deployed, a bunch of developers there are a bunch of things that need to, have gone down: planning, different meetings, stakeholders coming together, deciding what they need to build and all of that. So after all of those plenty groundwork has been done, there's the notion of the software development lifecycle that involves planning, analysis, design, before they start writing codes, and then developing, testing, the full software development lifecycle. But where we are particularly involved, concerned about the coding parts, where developers start to code and then they write their code and then build and then deploy to an environment, either production environment or development environment. So here we would have a bunch of developers write their code from their local machine now. I'm just assuming this is a local machine where codes have been written. Again, pardon my drawing. So this is codes where the developers are. Yes. We have more than one developers working on the code base for a particular application, particularly in this era now. Only one developer would be writing where I'm working on code base. So after the application source code, so we call it source code source code basically. The developers on their local machine, they've written the code. They push the code now, that's the right word to use, to a source code manager. And then I think I talked about source code managers last week. I have that source code manager. Can anybody remember what a source code manager is, or which of the source code managers were did you create an account for last week? Anybody? Can you guys hear me?
We can hear. I'm not sure.
Okay, so Git is the most popular source code manager. We have Git as like the technology behind remote or distributed source code management. And we'll still talk more on source code management when we go into Azure repos. This is where all of the source code commits. Yes. Code commit is distributed AWS proprietary, or just like we have Azure repos. So GitHub is more like, should I say, industry standard. It's more popular. When we say industry standard, it's more popular. So we have GitHub, we have Azure repos. Which we will be using for this course, particularly because we're learning Azure DevOps. So Azure Repo is more of what we would be focusing on. How to still walk through learning GitHub, because Azure Repo and GitHub, I don't think you can actually talk about source code management without talking about GitHub. So introducing us to GitHub and also Azure repos. Also, we have Bitbucket also, and like code commits, like putting to Bitbucket. So a bunch of them. Yeah. So after the code has been built and worked on by the developers, this is a constant thing to push to the source code management platform regularly. And so after the developers have pushed the code in here now needs to be built, packaged. That's it. I don't know what it. Compiled with a bunch of things. It needs to be brought together. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with programming. Again, I think I mentioned last week that you can't do DevOps without being familiar with programming. You need to at least be comfortable with it, understand what classes are, functions, and how all of those work together. So all of those classes, functions, and all of those, they can't function, they can't work in isolation. You need to compile them, you need to build them, you need to package it now so that they can work together to achieve whatever it is that's those codes that are being written for. So there we have like a build, we have when all of the code that the developers have written, when you now put them together, we have like I'm talking about different stages for how an application is being created now, right from when the codes are being written. So we have like and then I'm also talking about the CIC, because I think that was the word that created some confusion last week. Continuous integration and continuous delivery. So this word should give a proper understanding of what that is. So we're going to have a build stage here. So the build compound. So you can call it compilation. Yes, we just assume that we are building an application. The application instance. So the app is being compiled, and then after that compilation, after that building, it is packaged into something called an artifact. And the artifact is what gets sent or given to the operations team now before deploy or release the application to maybe production environment. So we have another release. We're trying to include, as we're talking about this, using some Azure DevOps terminologies also, so that when we eventually encounter them, it doesn't still sound totally strange. But this is like the manual way of doing continuous integration, continuous delivery. So after you build an application, is packaged into an artifact that is built the packaged application into an artifact. So you need to familiarize yourself with all of these terminologies, because you'll be using it from time to time when you're talking to different stakeholders during, I don't know, area you need to use the terminologies of the DevOps engineer. So that's what gets deployed. So in this release, had to be deployed the application. Application is deployed. And this is deployed to, we call them different environments. I'm just going to have the environment that users actually interface with is called the production environment. Call it production environment. But you don't deploy directly to production environments. You want to make sure you have various environments. The developers would need to, from time to time, test whatever feature in which they're working on. So you want to create an environment for the developers also that they would be working with. We call that dev environment. Dev development. Usually, let me just see what we call it for the environment. And then there's also another environment that is very, very key, and it is mostly for testing. The development environment is a very unstable environment. The code is always being pushed to it regularly, and then so is unstable basically. So you want another environment that's testers, QA guys can test the application and see that it's actually doing the things that the features that the product owners now say they want. They want a more stable environment that is like or almost similar to your production environment where tests have been carried out. So we have a test environment where user acceptance tests and the quality assurance tests are being carried out there. We have those three environments. They are we call them environments. They are basically maybe web servers or containers that houses your application, built packaged application now, where different stakeholders interface with. The production environment is where the end users, those that will be using the application, eventually will be interfacing with them. These for mostly the developers that are writing the code so that they can see and test the features. Most times they can test locally, but also we want to be sure that what they are doing locally is also available on a remote server somewhere. It doesn't even have to be remote. It can also be physical friend shape. So if I'm throwing around any word that you guys don't understand, please feel free to just stop me and let me know that yes, you don't understand what I'm talking about. Yeah. Hello.
Hello. Please, can you speak more louder?
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm losing your voice. Sorry. Okay. Just give me. Okay. Do I need to go over this again, or did you get?
No, it's okay.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Thank you.
we have this. This is like the full CI/CD. Developers write their code, they push to the source code manager, and once they push to the source code manager, there's a trigger, something that triggers the build stage. So these are different stages now. You have the build stage and then the release stage. So the trigger triggers the build stage that compiles the application now, and then the gets packaged into an artifact that gets deployed to different environments. But this is like the basic things that happens for an application. But during the build, there are other things also that you want to incorporate into your build. You don't just want to compile your application that you need to run some tests also before, even though there's test environment, but before you package your application, you also want to run some tests. Is developers write unit tests. There has to be, you want to run some static code analysis, and then it's not just developers now that write code. Traditionally, normally in a proper environment, you have database administrators also that writes queries, because an application is not just an application without a way of storing data. I don't think it's not a full-fledged application. So for every application, there's also like a database kind of that manages some states on data now. The world revolves around data. You have data, storing data, querying, and then storing user states and things. So you have database administrators. At times, your developers also act as they write the database query, but in a well-structured environment where you have different teams working, on a particular application. So here also you have DBAs, these database administrators. Also, they would write queries that will be developed, SQL queries, database queries that the application will be using. So that also, is being housed in the in your source code manager. And so you want to, for the developer's code, you want to test those codes against functions. You want to test them individually. Be sure that they run as they do the function in which they're supposed to do individual unit tests for the functions or the method now. And you also want to carry out static code analysis. There are tools that you use in doing most of these things, where you incorporate them into your build. Again, as DevOps, you are not the one that writes most of these tests. You don't even have to write anything. Your primary concern is understanding how to bring in all of this. Like we explained last week, DevOps is like a combination of two different teams. You are bringing two different teams together, both the development team and then the operations team. So you are sitting in between all of this, both the build and mostly the operations team are particular about the deployment, while the development team is in the build stage. So, having two stages is basically saying dev and operations. DevOps also is not just about this, it's about the culture, about making the codes that are being written at this level, getting it as fast as possible to this environment. So, and then you want it to be as clean as possible. You don't want to just take bugs and then send to your different environments. So also in this part, you have in this age and time now, you have the ops teams. Yeah, I'm looking at this from the DevOps standpoint. So we would also have the ops team. Again, some of these roles, they are intertwined. You can have your developers also acting as the DBA. So we have the ops team also. We call them IT pros. They are the ones that provision infrastructure and they manage various developments, production, and test environments. We call them IT pros or ops. So the rights now there's the concept of infrastructure as code. So they don't manually provision this environment anymore. So we write Terraform or ARM templates that would dynamically provision and configure your infrastructure. So all those files also, they are written locally and this is where all of these files, all of these templates, configuration, they meet in your remote repository. And then before you package, while you're packaging or building those source code, bringing them together, you want to run several tests on all of those files, one after the other, depending on what they're doing. So for the developer's code, you want to run unit tests, you want to do static code analysis, and then if your application now would have databases or have a database connected to it, you want to generate scripts, SQL scripts, and then you also want to test those scripts. And so in this stage here, we also have like the static code analysis. There's a tool called InsonaQ that we're using doing this. We would integrate that to the build pipelines. So all of this CI/CD is all in, we call it a pipeline, the workflow. So you write configuration file that will automatically do all of this. Also, we have generate the SQL files, scripts rather, before you build your application. Also, you want to test those scripts if we are actually creating the tables and all that we should create. And also, you want to confirm that the infrastructure, the code, the infrastructure code that the upstream have written that is the Terraform. Now you want to do a Terraform plan to be sure that infrastructure configuration is creating the right environment. So all of this gets done or together in the build stage, and then it gets packaged together. And also in the release stage, also we also want to run a few tests also. Testing we'll look at it later is very, very key in application development. At every stage, you want to carry out tests so that you are not deploying bugs into your application. So here you run an integration test. The integration test to ensure that it's the functions, the classes that have the tests individually here. After you've compiled, put them together, built them, they all working as a team. Also, we have UI tests, QA. At times, these are manual tests that gets carried out to see that everything is working with the UI. You can click the right button and it takes you. This mostly is done manually. It's a manual kind of test. That's after your application has been released or is being released, basically. Also, at this stage, this is where the SQL code is that was generated and tested here is being deployed. I also would want to mention that you have, for this environment, you'll be using different tools or different resources for this particular, also be using the web app, Azure web app, and then you also need a database also. So I think I should have that here. Using the web app is an Azure resource, and also a database. So for each of the environments, we'll be using the web app. When you say database, because your application will be complete without these things. Once you have a production environment, where is it deployed to? When you test environments, where is it deployed to? So these are the things that we'll be working with mostly. And for your code to be taken from your source code manager and then package, the general word we use is CI. That's continuous integration, where your code is being packaged, tested, and then compiled. And then you have the results. You generate an artifact from it. So all of that, this going on is called continuous integration, where developers push different developers push their code to source code management when it gets built. So all of those steps, when all of that's carried out, you say, and it is done automatically for that continuous integration. When the artifact is now bundled, and then series of other tests are run on that. And at this stage, at this release stage, is also where the infrastructure that the IT ops team, when they use their infrastructure as code now, or when the first stages are created, we call that continuous delivery. So continuous delivery is taking the packaged application and it's being deployed to different environments. It's running some tests on it. We also have some other tests that needs to be carried out in the we're just going to, and then we have tools that is being used basically that you can use to do all of this one step. We'll be considering Azure DevOps. That is what we'll be using. I just want to still point it out that there are a ton of tools. And I was telling you, DevOps, now there are 1,001 tools that can be used in achieving all of this. But Microsoft has given its necessary importance to just have all of them integrated into Azure DevOps. In the course of your career, you probably need to work with some other ones of them. Jenkins used to be very popular. I think it's still popular. It's CI CD tool, which everybody should learn. It's not manual. It's like the grandfather of DevOps with CI/CD. We have GitHub Actions, and so is also right. That's what I use very well. Actions. This is called, if your organization is using GitHub as your source code management tool, I think GitHub Actions would be right to use to build your CI/CD. We have a few of them. We have GitLab CI, Circle CI. With time, and as you progress in DevOps, you get to use all of these tools. You just add Circle CI to this. Again, the list is counting. Just that we have tons of them, and then technology daily, things, new things coming out. So this is like the workflow. I just wanted to mention this before we jump into Azure DevOps. This is basically what happens here when an application is said to be built. This is for the software development lifecycle in the design or the coding phase of that lifecycle of software development and application development. This is basically what happens, and then I'm now introducing CI/CD into this also, because that's continuous integration, continuous delivery, because that's what we will be looking at mostly. That is what the DevOps engineer is particularly concerned about. That's not the only thing that is, that's not the only job description of DevOps engineer now, but for the most part, you would, as a DevOps engineer, you'll be working with different people, both developers, product managers, but mostly developers here. And most of these roles, like I said, they are intertwined. You see DevOps engineers also, most of them. All of these roles are intertwined. You can have a DevOps engineer also as a developer, and yeah, having the operations background also. So again, I wouldn't advise that one person wants to take up all of this role. It's doable. There's nothing that the man mind cannot receive and do. Yeah, if you a jack of all trades, they say, there's something wrong with that phrase. But, yeah, having an understanding basically of how all of this work is an advantage. But when it is separated, it gives the opportunity for one person to master that field. So the DevOps person basically just makes sure that the code that is being written here gets, you integrate all of them together in your repository, and then you build it from there, and then deploy to the right environment, and then the right people who actually have the application running in there, test to see that yes, this is what we actually conceive, this is what we want to achieve, or this is what we want our end users to use before we now push to the end users to actually use it. And that is this production environment in the middle here. So I don't know, have I confused anybody further, or have I shed more light into what we would be looking at for the next 4 weeks? Akin particularly.
No.
I know, Titi, you said for the first hour you'd be uninterested. I didn't get that.
Can you hear me?
Okay, now I can.
Oh, I said I'm listening. I understood what you said.
So you have an idea of all of this workflow, this that we have in this diagram.
Yeah.
Okay, it's cool. Akin, how about you? Is Akin still on this one? Stella.
Yes.
Okay, so do you understand? I don't know.
Yes.
More on. Okay, yes. Okay.
Yes.
Akin was the one actually doing the review the last time, so I'm hoping that he's here to. It looks like he's doing something else. Okay, so again, this is basically what we'll be doing. Well, not until when we get to the pipelines part of Azure DevOps. Like I said in the last class, Azure DevOps is a software as a service. Can you see my screen apart from the whiteboard?
No, we can just see your screen, your whiteboard. Sorry.
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing that now. So I can bring up all the things. So I'm just still going to talk about Azure DevOps. It's a software as a service platform, Microsoft, obviously. And then we'll be looking at mostly these 5 services that Azure DevOps has to offer. I think we talked about this last week already, so I'm just going to jump straight into creating organizations and then projects using Azure DevOps. I know I already mentioned that you guys should set up your organization, your Azure DevOps account. But I asked earlier if anybody actually played around with it from the last class. Titi, did you have a chance to go around, just play around, whether with Azure DevOps or the Azure portal? Because if I'm going to
honestly, no. I wrote the AWS Cloud Practitioner exam this weekend.
Oh,
so yeah.
Without going, trust, I know you passed it.
Yeah, I passed. Thank God.
That's nice. Yeah. AWS is actually the leading cloud provider. So, yeah. Congratulations. Nice one. Okay. Yeah. Again, most of the cloud providers, like I said, they actually have similar services and resources. What you know, your knowledge of AWS will actually help go a long way in using any other cloud provider. I think it's always good to be cloud agnostic, even though you have general knowledge of how they all work, or you have one particular cloud provider that you actually use to work. Your ability to be able to work with any of them actually makes you more kind of sought for. So I'll be talking about basically getting started with Azure DevOps today, setting up your organization and creating your project. But apart from setting up your organization, there are some one-time things that I believe is important that one actually understands. When you have a toolbox now and then you don't know the full capacity, ability of that toolbox is going to be underutilized. So there are some settings now in Azure DevOps that you probably just do them once when you're setting up, or they're one-time thing, but it's good to just touch on them so that we don't just overlook it, because from time to time you might encounter some errors and then you need to go to if you know where to go to quickly fix that. It's good. So we've set up our account already, so we'll be creating I think I should also mention that apart from having your Azure account, you would need to set up or create a tenant and subscription also. An Azure tenant is basically a container for your users, your accounts, and then your subscription. That's the notion of I think I mentioned Azure. I like Azure in a way because they make it easy in managing your cloud infrastructure. So they have the concepts, of tenants or subscriptions, which I don't want to downplay AWS now. AWS does not have that. They just put everything inside your console. But I think Microsoft, they are like more user-centric, and they have a user-centric design in for Azure. AWS is more for professionals, kind of. So I'll be talking about tenants again. Like I said, it's like a container for all of the things that you're doing in Microsoft Azure. It houses your users, and you can have multiple accounts and then multiple subscription. The subscription is like what would actually we are particular about is a service inside of Azure that allows you to create resources, paid resources now. I think creating your new accounts, they give you some amount of credits that you can use in creating some Azure resources, but it's not all of them that is free. It's not every resource in Azure that you can use that credit for. So I think for you to fully use Azure DevOps with Azure, you need a subscription, because there's some things that you do if you're going to run your pipelines, and then some other things you will be needing that subscription. So did you guys set up a subscription, or do you want us to work to it together?
I tried, but I mistakenly put when I was trying to sign up, I mistakenly put my Canadian address instead of, and I messed up the country, so I am trying to figure out how to.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think you can always edit that in your settings. So should be able to rectify that. I don't think it's not an issue per se. I think it's in your Microsoft accounts that you do that. You go to the settings there and edit and reconfigure your country and there's somewhere in your Microsoft account that you would do this here. Yep. Change all of those settings here. So you would need a subscription. So it's again, all of these things, they are very, very easy to locate. So if it's not, it's here because these are like the resources that I've been interfacing with from time to time. So automatically, this brings them. But if you don't have it there, you can just come to this hamburger menu that you have at the top right here, and then click on all services, all resources, and then you can also search in here. For all services is where you need to come to it. You're going to filter them, search for subscriptions. So this will give you an overview of the subscriptions that you have. Most for you that you just created I think you would have your free trial subscription in here. Yes, you get $200 worth of free subscription. But again, that does not. I don't think it covers some of the services that we'll be interfacing with, particularly in Azure DevOps. But like the environment that I will be creating, like we'll be using the app service now. I think there's a free tier app service, which would actually, the free tier would cover. Yes, the free subscription offers a couple of popular services. Yeah. Create virtual machines, but again, you would be needing to create a subscription. You can add a subscription by adding subscription. I have that already, so I don't think I want to create another subscription. If you're doing it for the first time, you need to fill in the billing information and probably add your credit card details to it. They're not going to charge you immediately for it, but I think they are just going to maybe take $1 or so to confirm that your card is valid. So I'm doing the setting that up. I'm just saying this, you need to set this up on your side. And also, I know I said, okay, yes, mentioned, Microsoft also has this Active Directory service. So it's like the heart of the Azure account is where you find the name, an ID of your Azure tenant. I mentioned tenants earlier. Tenant is like a container where you houses your users and then your accounts and then your subscription. So Active Directory is like it also is the tenants basically is where you find even the name of your tenant. So Active Directory is like the heart basically of Azure of Microsoft of your Azure account now. I would also be needing this. Yes, I think is right that we just still touch on Microsoft Azure. We're still going to come to Azure DevOps. But these are some things that you need to set. I said it. These are one-time things that you just probably need to do once. Also, to set up Active Directory, just come to the top corner here. Most of the things that you're doing, you have all of your services, the groupings, the various groupings in here. Microsoft they have a very user-friendly interface. I think it's default directory that we call that here. Azure Active Directory. It's down here. So I have Azure Active Directory free. I think I have Active Directory. So this is primary directory. Again, you need to set up Active Directory for us to be able to, do some things. You can manage your tenants, or a few tenants. Yeah. Also delete some of them if you want to. So you can add users to, so like I said, basically we use this to manage users in our Azure accounts. For organizations, this is very, very important. we'll be dealing with different public DevOps operations team. So this is where you manage all of the users and then the various stakeholders that you'll be dealing with. So this is like the IAM of Azure. So yes, IAM. I know AWS uses IAM. So this is like the IAM. Again, you need to set up all of this in your accounts so that we can actually now come to Azure DevOps, and we'll be integrating with it later, much later. So again, there are things that we do, there are one-time things that we do. When you set up your Azure DevOps accounts, you need to, I think as you're setting it up, you need to create an organization almost immediately. After you've created that organization, I've created this organization and have a project in it. As a way of, for anybody that has not actually done this before, creating a new organization now. It's pretty very straightforward. It automatically checks or detects the region that is actually close to you. We're calling this, and then the name of the organization has to be unique globally. Calling this, what should I call this? It's similar. Just going to call it similar. I think it's case sensitive. I know you guys have done all of this. So the organization has been created, and then in new projects, you'll be prompted to create a project, because what is an organization without a project? So I'm just going to create a project. We're still coming back to talking about project and all of this. The project can either be private or public. Then should have there should be an option here to tell me if I want the kind of project, the work item. There should be. So I'm supposed to have something like this here. Tell me the kind of work item that's operating the project. So I'm using this now. So for this option, again, this is just basically telling you the kind of source control, version control that we'll be using for this project. So Git again is like the distributed version control, source control. they use it interchangeably. They are still saying the same thing. Then we have Team Foundation version control. This is phased out in a way because it's not distributed. Is more, again, it's phased out. So I wouldn't even want you to bother yourself with it. So Git is like is what's is being used now. Well, except maybe you have a specific need for using that Team Foundation version control. It's centralized. It has plenty cons, and except maybe Indian. Yes, it shouldn't even is phased out. It's the standard. Git is like the standard in the industry, so that's what we're going to stick to. We'll be looking at different work items later. We have basic, agile, Scrum, CMM. Scrum and agile, those are more popular now. But you have the basic one that is like a factory setting kind of. For you to use Scrum and agile, you should understand some certain things. They are a bit advanced kind of. But mostly this is just basically for the kind of Azure boards that you will be getting. We'll be looking at Azure boards if the time permits us today also. Yeah, so we'll be talking more about these different work item processes. I'll be creating a project now. I'm just going to call it first project. Just give it a description. I'm very terrible at the visibility, again, like I said, could either be private or public. The private project now, this is the default of the one, I mean, is aimed at internal development. Companies, different organizations, most organizations, I'd say, would not want what they are developing to be publicly accessible. So they want all of what the developers now are developing to only be seen by people that have, the right access. Only people that are signed in, the right users are the ones that, should be authorized to, maybe view or read from, their repository, from the organization, the projects generally. Then, organization can have different projects. Can be working on different projects, be it an entity relationship, ERP application, or again, there are different projects depending on the organization. We have I work for an health tech company, so we manage enterprise resource planning applications and then customer relationship management projects now. So you can have those different projects inside your organization, and then, you can have some of them, whether private or public, depending on the organization settings. And then for the default, the private one, there's a limit on the amount of pipelines that you can have, and then the agents and that is because it's private. So Microsoft, I think they are advocating for open source now. So if you are making your project private, there's a default limit on I think your pipelines and then the amount of agents that you can run. We'll be seeing talking about pipelines and agents later. You can actually increase them, or it's now going to be paid, but by default, there's a limit on them. But for the public one now, because everybody's advocating for open source projects now, which makes your application readable by just anybody. So it has its advantage also because you have unlimited. There are so many free resources, especially while you are building and releasing your application. For some reason, most tech giants now, once you have open source projects, they give you goodies, free things to run around with, to be able to build and then release your project, your application now. So, and then for you to enable the public project, you need to go to your organization settings. I think I should just go there. So I don't know why the organization settings is way down here. We'll still come to talk about these various things. Like I said, most of these settings are one-time things that you do once and then you go back. So I want to enable the public project setting here. So this is where you come to set that in security, organization and security policy you enable. So yeah, you can just enable this also. I'm still going to come back to talk about this thing. So now I see that you can now select between both public and private repository. So I'm just going to leave all of this as the codes. I'm going to make this public. So after creating your projects, this by default now enables, these are the tools that Azure DevOps, or the services that Azure DevOps makes available. This are the services that we will be learning. We'll be taking them one after the other. The boards is where planning is being done. So but before we go into all of this, I would want us to manage or look at our organization properly, how to configure it, and then make it, set it up now to suit our needs. Again, I don't know why the organization settings is in the very bottom here. I know all of this that we're talking about is still, I don't want to say the boring stuff. It's not action-packed like when we go deep into building applications and writing workflows. But this is necessary that we lay this foundation. So the organization settings is way down here. Again, right here. And then we have a couple of things that we, can do in here. you can change the name. Basically, this is basically the name of the organization. Before you actually, while you are setting up originally, I think you should have come to a conclusion on the name that you want to use. But again, you can always change the name. You can always change the name. The option is there to change the name. Yeah, it's there. Again, it must be unique. If it's not available, I try to change this to something that I have already to detect that yes, it's unavailable globally. Even if you try to do it on your end too, because it's a global, it's Azure DevOps is global. Can also add a privacy URL to it, and description also. And then I think I'm changing your organization settings, the name now, it can have adverse effect, especially if you've set up project and then you've added teams to it, you've added users to it, and then you decide you're just going to change the name. It's put in lockouts the teams that you have, the users that you have, because the URL is going to change, and then it's not just very, very wise to, just come and change an organization sensibly to disrupt so many things in your organization. So, so many things that you don't need to do with the organization. You just leave the organization as name as it is from the beginning. Changing the name. Yes, you can also have a description. Again, all of these are one-time things that you do. I also like to use time zone that is close to where one is, so you can have proper timestamp when you maybe need to monitor some nodes or some things. I don't know exactly why Africa. This automatically the save button is here. For some reason, you cannot change your region when you set up your organization. I don't know why. Click on the save button. A few changes that they would be propagated. And then your region will determine some privacy laws that you would experience while using some things that you might be able to do in the European region that will not be available, maybe in the Asian region, or some things available in the US, in the American region that will not be available in the European user. Mostly has to do with data storage and some weird other things like that. There's a way you can actually change your region, but it requires that you start going to get some extra things that you need to actually do to change your region. I think instead of changing trying to change the region, going through all of that stress, it's just best to maybe create a new organization with the right region sets. But if you have so many things already set up in that region, then you can always go through, I think it's a virtual agent that you use, contact Microsoft support so you can change your region. Also, I want to talk about the organization owner. You can change the organization owner for large organizations. It's not something that's you would want to tamper with. This is for just me now, so I can view and then see. I can change as I want. But if you're working for maybe say a fintech company now, you won't even have the power to want to change the organization. So yes, you have to be very, very careful who you give this organization to. It means that's the person that has veto power on all of this organization. Also, we can delete the organization. This automatically deletes the boards, the repositories, and it's like a self-destruct button. So it's a no-go area, especially if you have been using your organization for a while. You set up your different repositories and different web projects in there. Sorry, excuse me. Also, you can add users to the organization. These are things that you would probably do regularly. I would have wanted to add everybody on this course to this repository that we've set up. So okay, I think we can actually do it. So guys, can you please send in your email addresses so I can add you to this repository? Because when we get into Azure boards now, I want to make this as practical as possible, where I can assign tasks to individuals. So, we can have like a real life scenario of how Azure boards would be, and then some other things. Also, when we get to the working also. So I want this to be as practical as possible. I know we're still, doing plenty theoretical things now, but this is, don't worry, it gets more interesting after. Yeah. So particularly your GitHub account that you used in setting up your GitHub account, you can send that to the chat. Yes, thank you. Okay. So I'm going to add you guys to this project. You probably get, you will definitely get it. So I'm going to add user. Yeah. I hope these are the emails you use in setting up your GitHub repository. Who is that last person? Perfect. Take care. Take care. And then you can add them to you can have more than one project, and then you can actually build a team out of the various users. So you can have various access level, whether basic, stakeholder, or the Visual Studio subscribe. I'll also point out that for this free Azure, because this is a free Azure DevOps that we're using, so you can really have 5 basic users, and the basic users have full access to all of Azure DevOps features, that is the boards, repos, and the pipelines. Stakeholders now, they have limited access. It's free. We have full access to pipeline, but I don't think they have access to repos and limited access to the Azure boards. Basically, is the basic user basically you won't be working with most times. And then this Visual Studio subscriber, I think this is for other Azure DevOps users that have paid licenses. It's mostly for enterprise subscriptions, and depending on the organization you're working with, even though they have full access, they don't take up any user slots like the basic one is for selected users. So after you've added the user to the project, you can now decide the group that you want them to actually be in. There are different groups for the project. This is like a project kind of grouping now. So I want these users to either be, the names are very, very, I think they are self-explanatory. Either you want them to just be readers, they can just view things, they cannot actually edit or do anything, they can only see. The contributors means they actually have they can contribute, they can edit stuff in this particular project. Now, so this, and then administrator, it's like this, they have full power to do. So I'm going to leave this to send it then, because yes, check it, you won't get an email. So you receive an email. Once I click on add now, you should receive an email notification. You can check your spam folder also. Why is it just 3 users? Let's press this. Maloney, why is your email? You added 4 people. Why is it just 2? Session notification.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I added you, but I don't know why it's not showing.
I don't think you added me. I don't know. You didn't put my name there.
How would I put your name?
I didn't see it.
What did you do to me? I'm sure. Oh, I didn't put your name virtually. So you should have gotten an email think you can click on join now, but I'm not sure if that will go through. I'm going to do so you can still come in and then do a few things to change the access to the role, manage the user, listening items, all of this. But we'll be coming back to the use of this later. We still have quite a few things that we still need to touch on here. So we'll be coming to billing. Billing is, let's say, an important part of these settings here. So many things going on here. This is where you set up billing again for the organization. You can increase the number of basic users here. 5 is free, and then you can also add. We'll be doing this later because of the because we need to run parallel jobs in our workflow pipelines. When we get to pipelines, we need to add parallel jobs for this. By default, billing is not set. These are just the defaults, the free assets that we have. So if you're going to upgrade your subscription, your billing now, you want the features that are available to you for your Azure DevOps to be upgraded. You will need to set up billing. So this is where your Azure subscription would come into play. I mentioned earlier that so you need to set up Azure subscription in your portal. Yes, after you set up your, so it will automatically detect the subscription that you have. Like, I mentioned that they are kind of intertwined. Even though if you don't set it up here, I think you can still set up new subscription here. It should create a new to open up a new tab. So this has taken away from Azure DevOps completely. This would take you to the Azure portal where you need to set up 20 things. Just going to go back to. So if you've not set up your subscription here, and you want to do it from here, this will just take you back to the portal. That's why I said we should have set it up from the beginning, so it will automatically detect the subscriptions that you have in here. So if I click on this now, it will enable. So it's linking subscription to the organization here. I will want to this is the number of agents and the number of parallel jobs that you can have. This is where you increase it. Again, this is mostly for private projects. There's a lot that you can do here. 653 user, you're going to increase it to multi-organization, like you want to increase the number of users in the organization, which most organizations will have, because you have maybe more than 5 people interfacing with your DevOps council. You're going to add this thing, you're already optional free one. You will be paying for that also. You are not willing to pay AWS anymore. Particularly, this is what you'll be working with, because again, the organization will probably have their projects for private, and then you are limited to just 30 hours of CI/CD pipelines, which I mean is for a month, and then jobs can only run sequentially, but you want it to run parallel. You don't want to wait until one job is done before another job gets done. You want everything to be parallel. So we'll be increasing this. We would see where this will come into play later. Then can increase the number of users, like I said. Your Azure subscription that will actually make all of this. Some reason there used to be an increase the number of users here. I don't know why that's showing up. We'll be looking at that. So we only have 3 users here, so we don't need to increase the number of users. Okay, yes, yeah. When you set up your multi-organization user billing, that's when this will be enabled. Then I think you get built daily, depending on the number of users that you add. Also, usually you want to connect your Azure DevOps to Azure Active Directory, which is necessary. Yes. Okay. So if I connect my Active Directory, because you guys are not part of the Active Directory, you cannot have access to the organization. But I think this is necessary that you actually set up your users in Active Directory before adding them to Azure DevOps. For security reasons, there are some security things that you want to set up for this. But I'm just going to let so that you guys can be guest users. Have you guys gotten the email? Did you click on it? Hello?
Yes.
Did you get any error, or what happened when you clicked on it?
I got the email.
Okay.
Yeah, but I've not clicked on anything yet.
Yeah, okay.
I got an error.
Yes, unauthorized.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
I'm not authorized to view the page. Should make sure the URL is correct.
it has to do with this Active Directory setup. I would figure out. I would figure out how to get that set up. So I think we would be looking at some of the other organization settings later. Again, is billing that is like mostly important they're all important. For all of these ones are tied to projects. So coming to our projects now and look at some project settings. Again, project setting is at the bottom of lower left corner, same place where the organization settings is. Here, we're looking at you can change or toggle on and off the services that you want to use in Azure DevOps. Yep. Can change it's not for most organizations, it's not all of the services of Azure DevOps that they will be using. Some organizations might decide, okay, yes, we don't want to use Azure DevOps board. We would rather use Jira or some other planning tool. Has anybody heard of Jira or used Jira before?
Yeah. Yeah, I've used Jira. I worked for an organization that supported Atlassian.
So when by the time we get to board, you'll see the similarity between Jira and then the Azure boards. They're very, very similar. I mean, so like I said, some organization might decide, okay, yes, we don't want to use the Azure boards, or okay, yes. Yeah. So you can come here and then toggle it on that, okay, yes, for this particular project, we're not using Azure boards, or we're not using test plan. For most of organization, I think the test plan, Azure DevOps test plans is going to be turned off. Most of it you'll probably just want to use external test tools, which is more robust. And so I think when we're still going to talk about it. So here's where you can actually you have all of this, but you can choose not to use it. So they're not forcing you, like, okay, yes, if you are going to use Azure DevOps, you have to use all of our services. So basically, this is just maybe where you want to declutter your UI. You don't want to have all of these plenty of things. Then you just want the ones that you want to use. Also, you can add project administrators, and then also you can delete. You can add administrators here. This should pull in the users that we've added before. So an add it as an administrator to this particular project. And then you can also delete the projects altogether. Also, you can have teams, you can build a team now, like, okay, yes, for is this concept of microservices, where you have guys working on the front end part of your project, and those working on the back end. So you can create a team for the front end guys and a team for the back end guys. So basically, that's what this option gives you. Then we have permissions also to add this. I think we saw this earlier in while we're adding users, and you can create new groups. The default thing that gets created when you create your project is this, but you have other groups, and then they come into play in various parts of the organization. So you see users also. There are so many settings here that one can play around with. Again, you would need to actually personally just play around with this. I'm just showing us that yes, there's a lot that can be done both in the organizational part and then in the project level. And there's also security. Security is critical in whatever one is doing on the in IT and then in the cloud now. So I didn't talk about it in I think security is an organization setting. Yes, we have the security here. So we have policies and permissions. They are organization-wide settings. So many things that can be worked on. I think we enabled allowing public projects and then inviting GitHub users for policies parts, and then permissions. There's I want to believe this is where I would need to grant you guys permission to the organization. You need to play around this to be able to, because it's quite it's a lot going on in here. So you can drill down to each user then to set what and what they can do. Okay, excuse me. Yes, so many things that can be done in security. Security, I think, is a world on its own. I think most organizations now, they have security experts that actually handle administration of permissions and then user rights and access rights and all of those things. But I think there's some basic things basic knowledge that one should have as to how to secure both your organization and then your individual projects as a DevOps practitioner. I think there's a project collection. The user is here. Okay. This is very interesting. The thing just keeps going inside and inside. There's so much that needs to be done here. So I would fix you guys. The error that you're getting is somewhere here that you need to do it. There'll be plenty back and forth, which I'm going to get into. Yeah, so there's a lot that can be done under permissions. Permission is very, very important. Policies is just allowing two things. But permission is where you can break and scatter the full organization after delete and then create a new organization. So it's what's playing around with most of these settings, like I said, most organizations will have security experts that will have the right policy now, the right documentation on how to set up permissions, giving the right permission to the right people. Is the principle of lists privilege. You want to give users just the right amount of permission that they need to carry out their task. You don't want to give users too much privilege, or they would abuse it. I remember when I was working with Benoni, he abused this privilege so many times. It would just be giving. I granted him access to give himself permission, and then he took plenty advantage of that. It was just where he is now. I thought he still had that kind of free hand, and then I think it has been called severally by internal affairs. Young man, you do not go to this place. You do not go to this place. So granting permissions is something that should not be taken lightly or loosely. We have other settings also. We have looked at some of the most important ones, but some other settings that are worth mentioning. I think we have auditing. That's basically to usage. It's like you have your what do they call this in AWS? I think it's cloud trail. So you can use this to monitor what's.
Yes, it's called Cloud Trail.
Cloud trail in AWS to monitor what user is doing, what your different users are doing in the organization, or what part of the. Especially if you've given permissions anyhow, then you still want to monitor in a way. The bulk of what one does as DevOps, I think there's an SRE now, is you will get familiar with looking at logs. You would, in fact, be overwhelmed by the number of logs that you need to be monitoring on a daily basis. I had to yesterday, as part of my task, go through logs for an application logs from Sunday, because a particular customer bought a provider now, paid for a policy, and then the product manager had to call me and said he's not sure if the email, the onboarding email for that particular tenant now dropped, that so I should go and check the logs and then confirm if the email got sent, from. So I had to go to the application log, and for the whole of Sunday, started searching to be sure that yes, the email got dropped, and it was a lot, because I don't know if you've seen an application log before. It's in an hour you get 5,000, 10,000 lines of logs, and now imagining you have to check the logs for a time frame that you're not even sure of. So you will get comfortable managing logs, and then yes, and so you have that opportunity to also track what. I'm still the only user working here. By the time I grant you guys access, I think your names will come up, and whenever you go to in the organization, I'll be able to see. Then if you are going to where you're not supposed to go to, then revoke your permission. It's a very, very good tool. after applications have been developed, I forgot to mention when I was doing that in that whiteboard, monitoring is in fact another world on its own. The uptime of the application, uptime, how the CPU that is housing the application is doing, all of those logs, those metrics, you will be monitoring it. As a DevOps person, you need to make sure that the application is up and running, the uptime is almost 100%. You can't get 100% uptime, but you would try as much as possible to make sure that you have a perfect uptime of the application, and then the infrastructure housing the application also would be monitoring that a lot. You'll be using external tools that would probably be pulling all of those metrics for you, but you would have dashboards that you'll be using to monitor and see how those things are doing. You have Prometheus and Grafana that works with that, and then you have Datadog now, which I think is very, very powerful. Also, we have global notification. I think this is also kind of related to logs in a way. Okay, notification. This just states who gets notified when certain actions happen. Like if you are building your pipeline now, you want to see, okay, yes, when this build succeeds or if it fails, send an email to this particular set of people, maybe the front end guys, and then again, basically just like when you get credit alert and you get a text message from your bank that, okay, yes, a transaction has been performed on your account. So basically this is what the notification tab does. Again, most of these settings, there are things that you do. I want to believe most organizations have like guidelines on how to set up all of these things. So they'll just give you that there's a manual now or documentation now. Okay, yes, if you are privileged to be the one to set up the organization, these are things that you do one time. People when notifications are being sent and leave out different users from getting different things. Again, most of these are borrowing things that you would have to do over and over again. Also, we have extensions. Here, share extension. We can browse the marketplace. Microsoft has a marketplace for different extensions. In fact, the list cannot be things that you can add to Azure DevOps. When we'll be running the tests plan, that is when we would probably come in here to pull in some applications that we'll be using in our Azure that will be adding to Azure DevOps. It basically make life easy. People that have created, instead of reinventing the wheel now, writing some things from the start, they've created all of this. In fact, it makes life way, way easy. the things that you don't even want to get into. Instead of writing all of these things all over again, just add all of these extensions to your organization or to your project now, and then just use what has been written. Most of these extensions, it's not everything that is being written by Microsoft. You have some of them by Microsoft, some from third-party people. You have Kate talking, doing this. So you also want to be careful when you come here to get extensions. Mostly it's advised that you use official extensions. I'm sure Microsoft, most of the extensions that you've been needing are official extensions, and if you're not sure, you can always read up on or do a deep dive on wherever it is extension that you're going to be using. Most of them are from other companies, and so again, you still want to be careful on how you add extensions to your projects. Most of them are free, but not everything. So yes, you can browse and go through all of this at your leisure and use that at your own risk. It's simple. You can just click on the extension and then says get it for free. We'll be using this later because it's for static code analysis. We'll be adding it to one of our projects that we'll be building. We'll be working later. I think we've touched on this. We touched on Active Directory earlier. The other settings here for pipelines and for repos, we'll be discussing them. We won't go into those now because when we go to those services, we probably still need to touch on them later. So yes, I've covered all of the general setting and then security setting, and these other ones are specific to only test plans that you don't have settings for, because test plan again is something else entirely. So Azure DevOps, it offers, there's a lot of things that can be done for both your project and user and then group management. So the security cannot be overemphasized. We'll be taking a look at this, and then maybe you guys also can play around. You can set up permissions for different environments. Securing the environment is very, very important. So yeah, from over the time of one's career, you'll be creating different projects or even different organizations itself. You'll be fortunate to work with different organizations, and then you'll be working with different people and different teams. Some will work independently, depending on the need of the organization. I'll take a pause here now for questions, or maybe there's something that I missed that you want to point to. So I expect that you people ask questions. Okay, are you back with us? Hi guys, I understand this is like 2022, and I said we were going to jump into working with, it's just necessary that we cover all of these things so you know that they are there. So can we discuss basically organizations and projects? Hello?
Yeah, we can.
So What do you have for me?
It depends on what you want to hear.
Depends on what I want to hear. And now, so everything I've been saying since I know it's not practical. So, but yeah,
I mean, you have organizations, you can create projects. The projects you can have like private or public projects. You have different settings under the organizations. In the projects, you can have like the entire DevOps lifecycle. So like the boards, the pipelines, all the good stuff, the repository. The organization settings, you essentially have like the meetings, creating users, notifications, like policies and permissions to view certain parts of the system.
Oh, wow. You actually followed. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's basically all that we've talked about, yeah. Organizations and projects having this. I hope it's not just Titi following in this class. Stella, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so all of the organization settings and the project settings, they're very, very clear. Yeah, again, they will be clear. I thought you wanted to say something, Stella.
No?
Okay, so you are clear with setting up an organization and then setting up the projects, assigning users and teams to organize them to your projects.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Malume, are you, I don't want to ask you anything. Do you have anything to ask me?
I don't have anything to ask you. Yeah, fine. Yeah. Did you get that?
Yeah, I didn't get.
So yeah, I can say that yeah, setting up the organization that will be able to use going forward in this Azure DevOps what do you call it?
Yeah.
Training. So I don't think there's any questions for you.
So we're going to go straight into boards. We're still going to be talking about terminologies also. Before that, let me just actually put this. Okay. Akin said is leaving. Yeah, another. Stella, did you say you got an error when you clicked on the email?
No? No error.
No error.
No.
Wonderful. I would like to see what you click on it. What exactly do you want to share your screen? Let's see what exactly it took.
Oh, I used my phone.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, but where did it take you to? I see that you accessed this.
Hold on, please. I'll send the screenshot now to the group.
That's on WhatsApp, yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
I've sent it.
Okay. So how come Titi, yours didn't go through? Are you sure that's the same? This is the email you use for your GitHub when you set up your GitHub.
Yeah, it is the same. Let me make sure. I believe it's the same email.
Malumi, did you get the email?
You did not add me now.
Is this not you?
Oh, let me check.
Yeah, it's the same email.
Hmm.
Does it matter if I haven't subscribed to like I don't have a subscription yet? Do you think that?
No, I don't think that shouldn't. I don't think Stella even has a subscription yet. Or do you have a subscription, Stella?
No, not yet.
So I don't think he has. Yeah, I'll look at the permissions. I'm sure it's probably permission. It has the same permission too.
Yeah, I got the email. I've seen the email.
But do you have access to it? Do you have the permission to access
Permission to do what?
it? Click on the email if you can.
Yeah, I have to sign in. You know, I use my email.
Okay.
I don't know if I can remember my password like this.
Imagine.
Let me put password.
So
Let me try.
we'll be jumping on boards now because we still have we still have time to jump into boards. Boards is also very, very, how do I put it, theoretical, because mostly the Azure boards is like I said, it's an agile tool that helps us plan, track, and us work. As DevOps engineer, you'll be working with different teams, developers, the operations guys, QA guys, product managers. In fact, I say DevOps is like customer care for the development team because you'll be interfacing with quite a lot of people, even with end users and then product owners at times. Yeah. So for this to be done efficiently, the Azure DevOps or an agile tool would be used. So the Azure DevOps and Microsoft has they deemed fit that okay, yes, instead of having the different or having them use different tools now, let's bring all of the tools that different stakeholders will be using.
Then I don't have access to.
Okay. I'll fix that. Yeah, what was that? Yeah. So instead of having to use different tools, Azure DevOps as or Microsoft now, they've incorporated all of this inside Azure DevOps. Like, okay, yes. While you're developing your projects, we don't want you to start going out on different or having different tabs open. So from your Azure DevOps, you can both, plan and then start implementing different tasks that you want to accomplish while you're developing and while you're building your application. So we'll be looking at Azure DevOps. Is mostly, again, used by both developers and then product managers. But from time to time, they will be assigning tasks to you as the DevOps person. Okay, but if you maybe within the DevOps team now, you want to use it to assign tasks amongst yourself. I remember I would always say this, Pelumi forced me to we use Jira, DoctorSoft. So I would call him like, okay, we need to set up something, say, create a ticket on Jira. What's wrong with you, nigga? But it's actually a good practice here, especially for documentation purpose. Imagine you fixed something in your workflow now. Maybe you just did it. Okay, yes, this thing broke, and then you just fixed it without creating a ticket, without using maybe boards or Jira or a planning tool. Now, if such issue arise again, whatever steps that you took, you might not even remember that you've actually worked on something like that before. But if you have it documented now, you created a ticket for it, and then as we'll see, the option to actually state what you did, to solve that particular issue, and actually, document it in ticket that was raised on the board or on the Jira platform now. It will save you so many headache later. When such issue arises again, it will be much more faster for you to deal with. You just go back, look for that ticket, and then look at what was done to resolve it, and then your work will be much more smooth and soft, kind of. So that's what Dot does. It's not but for product managers now, they work with it regularly. It's like their toolbox, and because you'll be interfacing with all of these stakeholders, it's good that you actually understand what they are working with, so that when you're in their meeting and then they are throwing around their various terminologies, you want to be able to understand them. You don't want to start dozing off because you'll be meeting with them regularly. DevOps as a culture it preaches that everybody work together as one. That's blame throwing around thing. It shouldn't exist in an organization that is practicing DevOps. If anything is broken, everybody takes responsibility for it. There are teams, but on the larger picture, everybody they're working together to achieve that one goal of getting your product out to the customers and satisfying the customers. But within yourself there, they want to foster teamwork. And then if you guys don't speak the same language, how would you understand yourself? So yes, speaking the same language, understanding, the lingo, the terminology, that is being used in the organization, the team, in a project would actually save one plenty headache. So as a DevOps person, you would be versatile in your understanding of various terminologies because you'll be working with different stakeholders. So boards is one of those tools that you would be using regularly, even though originally it belongs to why do I keep saying it belongs to product managers? They're the ones that use it mostly. So if we are coming back, I think the best way to actually run through this is to see how it's been done. So again, boards is when you come to your Azure DevOps, you in your projects, you have your boards. This one also recently worked on recently updated work item, but because this is a new project, it's empty now. We can create a new work item. I'll still be explaining what all of this mean. Work item is, and then you can pick, you have 3 different work items here now. Either an epic, an issue, or a task. We'll get to the meaning of this just in a second, but I just want us to look at what this is I think the basic work item that we chose here. But we go back to our organization now. For this project, we chose the basic work item, I think. So we've not created any. I want us to see the different types of work items that we have. So we're going to create a new project, and then I'll call this example. Or let me just call it so I can differentiate it. Agile projects. I'm going to choose Agile for this. Create this. Then we can have different projects and different teams. I'm going to do this for Scrum. Also, Scrum projects. There's something I want to point out here. Choosing Scrum also has the work item process here. There's one more, the CMMI one, but I won't be discussing that because it probably would not. It's not as used as Agile and Scrum. So I'm just going to focus on Agile and Scrum here, because even with the Agile and Scrum, I must confess, I will struggle trying to explain all of this, all that we have in there, the different work items and the different processes. Yeah. So even though talking about Agile and Scrum is not in the scope of this course, but I think it would, to talk about boards, I'll just try as much as possible to give basic understanding so that, it's just, if you want, except if you are, really interested in project management, I can recommend books that you will read on both Agile and Scrum. Yes. So for the Scrum project, if we come to the boards, I'm just going to point out that if you try to click on create new work items, you see you have more than what we saw earlier in the basic work item process. You have bugs, epic, element, task, test case, and all of that. If I come back to the Agile project now, then bugs, try to create, you see that the work items that you have here, they are different. So for each of the project types and then the work item process type, also you have different work items. And these are the things that you'll be we'll be discussing. I'll try as much as possible to touch on them because it's a lot for the different methodologies right now. I think I'll start with the okay, and for each of them now, if you notice, we have there's something that is actually I say is the same across boards. We'll come back to work items. I just want us to talk about backlogs for a minute. Backlogs. I want to touch on the ones that you'll be working with as a DevOps engineer. I don't want to overload us with unnecessary things. So backlogs basically is simply a list of work that needs to be done. Both product managers and, like I said, those are the ones that actually work with this plan. They're the ones that will plan and that do the planning mostly with developers and product owners and maybe business analysts. They're the ones that write all of those epics, the bugs, product backlogs, and all of those work items that we see. These product managers that write them. So all you will be doing is maybe when the task is assigned to you, just move it from one part of the board to the other. You won't for creating all those work items now. Creating of all of these bugs, epic features, and elements is mostly the project manager that does all of those, and then depending on the projects and that is being used or the kind of project. Backlog this is where you will need to come and be pulling those work items for. Like I said, it's basically a list of work that needs to be done. You have different ways of creating it, work items. When we create work items, we would see it gets appeared in our backlogs eventually. So again, backlog is just like a list of all those work items that would be created. And there's an hierarchy between the various work items as we will be seeing. The basic process. This is our basic projects. This is where we have our basic project. So there's an hierarchy in this basic process. Epics contains issues, and then issues contain tasks. So they are arranged, even though they are just, you don't see the hierarchy here, but it's like a top to bottom kind of thing, like a pyramid here. So this epic is like, I don't want to say the most important or the most pressing now. Task is like the bare minimum, I'm looking for the word to use to explain this task. Task is self-explanatory, but I'm trying to use the right word now. An example that would actually drive this home. So let's say you have a product now, and then you want to add like, you have a web application now, and then inside that web application, you want to add like a shopping, let's say, an e-commerce application now. You have that running, and then you want to add like a shop, like a web shop to that e-commerce website. We could call that feature now, that web shop that you want to add to that e-commerce as like an epic. Or you want to create like a wiki page now for a particular product. I think you can call that an epic also. And then once you create that epic, those epic now, and then they are placed in the backlog, you can now prioritize those epics. And then by creating issues or features now out of those epic, so you can now, now assign this to different developers by creating tasks, individual tasks for how those issues that is in that overhead or overall epic can be achieved. Tasks are like very, very simple. It should be very descriptive. Like I mentioned that, we want to create a web shop as an epic now. A task can be something like on the home page of that web shop, add a link. So like sorry, to narrows or breaks down individual tasks that need to be done. I don't want to say I'm struggling explaining this because this is a product manager kind of thing, yeah. When we start creating it, it will make more sense. I just want to first familiarize us with this terminology so that again would get familiar with it. The whole essence of all of this is maybe to calculate or to give an estimate of how these tasks will be completed, like adding a link to a page now. It's easy to say, okay, yes, this shouldn't take the whole day. This should take you 3 to or 1 to 2 hours in getting this right, and this is putting into consideration how to style and do all of those things. So basically, that's what the boards and then planning tool is for, to be able to estimate and then to prioritize tasks and then things that needs to be done, particularly, because when you're developing, you want to add time frames to a project, to the achievement and the conclusion of the project. We'll be seeing later when we talk about sprints and then duration of time where you want to achieve a particular goal, kind of again, product managers, they are the ones that deal with this mostly. And then, like I said, helps them understand the amount of effort a feature or an epic now, the overall goal is going to take. And it makes the process basically also makes clear how developers can work on a particular task. Like I said, if you have maybe like you have 4 developers and then just 2 of them is needed to effectively work on maybe a particular epic, and the other 2 can also work on some other epic. Like you have 2 different backlogs. You know how to separate the developers in different teams and then have them work. Again, all of this is to be able to estimate and then prioritize work in a way. I also mentioned sprints. All of this process now, it supports sprints, both the basic and the agile and then Scrum. Sprints basically is a period between, it depends on the feature or the work that needs to be done, is usually between 2 or 3 weeks, in which work item will be completed and deployed. And so it's not just about completing it, taking it from when the work is being done to whatever environment that you need to get that feature on. So that is, that duration from the inception to, the consummation is the sprint. If it's not deployed, then the work is not complete. So the backlogs must have, been properly itemized. You must have a full backlog before you can actually say, yes, we want to start planning our sprints, because it's from the weight of those backlogs that will determine how long the sprint would be. And you would know how to prioritize different issues, and you place them in different sprints, and then different teams can then estimate the efforts that it would take to completing both the issue and then individual task in that issue. I know I've thrown around so many terminologies, but I promise you, over time you're going to get used to it and how to use them, how you're talking with different stakeholders. So I don't know, I'll just take a pause here to ask if there's anyone that has any question. I know it's just some of you guys that 2 ladies that are here now. Akin has dropped off. I know Palumi is not interested in boards at all. So Titi, Stella, do you guys have any questions so far on the boards? We have not started doing anything yet, though. But, I want to swallow spits now. So you guys, if you have any question, please.
No, I don't have any questions.
No, I know you said you've worked with Jira before, so yeah.
Yeah.
It's just going down smoothly. It's like you're even saying, please, can we just jump to the interesting stuff and just leave all of this?
Yeah, you read my mind.
No, that won't be fair on others that have not used it before. So yeah, particularly, I don't know why Akin is not on this call. He's the one that is mentioned that all of the terms they've been using is strange to him. So I'm trying to, carry everybody along. Okay. Stella, are you still with us, or you have slept off?
No, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all of this, is it making sense? Do you understand why boards or why planning is important?
Yeah, a bit. I will have to rewatch the video.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So we're going to stop at sprint. I won't want to load us too much. So I'll just round up on sprints. Sprints, like I said, is a period of time, and then it's a planning phase. I've actually I joined the development team one time while they were planning their sprints where I work, and plenty back and forths, and at a point I had to drop off, like, this is not what I want to sit down listen to. So, but once it has been planned, the team now commits to it. In fact, I think mostly they even try as much as possible to complete all of those tasks and then issues even before the sprint, the time allocated, to that print, the sprint rather, elapses, because I don't know if you understand, if you know how development works. The original code, writing the code originally is not actually the issue, but it's when you start testing and then you want to get it, you want to integrate all of this together. That's when the work actually begins. That's when different bugs starts coming out. And then, as we'll see in the Agile methodology, you see we have bugs in there. And so they try to make allowance for bugs while executing these different tasks. Even though the time period at times is set in stone, they don't want to exceed it. But issues turn up. Bugs comes up in production, even after rigorous test and all of those. The possibility that one or two things will just slide into production, and then they always make room to solve those bugs as quick as possible, especially when it has been pushed to production. They don't want users to experience breakage or in the application. So they always give time to fix issues. Then all of this is within that sprint period. So again, for them to be able to keep track of things that are broken, things that are breaking, or things that still needs to be done. But at times, even sprints, at times, even though they try to work with it, there are times that they'll need to just forget about those sprints, and then because maybe something with a higher priority that needs to be fixed urgently needs to be done, the sprints can also be dropped. And then, crisis could happen, and then, critical bugs, data breaches, things that are beyond the power of just even the product manager now, changing laws. Again, mostly, I think most of this is as a result of bad management. If proper planning has been done, you can allowances for all of whatever it is that might want to, occur, and always make allowance for those. Again, working in sprints just allows the team to plan ahead, and most importantly, to plan for change. and then there's a number of sprints that you actually plan depending on how large the team is. Even for a large team, each of them would have their own sprints, and then you don't want to have more than 2, at most 3 sprints ahead. So if priorities or specification change, you can always pick up these changes in 2 or 3 weeks at most. Like I said, the sprint period is usually between 2 or 3 weeks at most, depending on the length of the sprint. It's recommended to finish 1 sprint before actually jumping to another sprint. You don't want to have finished work working on by the time you go back to, if you write a chunk of code today and then you leave it for just 1 day self and you go back to it, you would start wondering, like, who wrote this? So again, that's why it's advised to always try to finish 1 sprint before jumping onto the another, so that again, can have detrimental effect on the team and even the whole officers, because nobody understands what they're doing, and then things gets to wrap up all of this. We have work items which are placed in backlogs, and that they are estimated and then planned into sprints. We'll now in Wednesday we'll start looking into the individual processes, even though most of them have similarities, but there are some salient differences between them, which we would try to cover. I'll try as much as possible to cover them. Or we'll create different work items for the different projects, and then we'll go on from there. I think this is where we draw close to all of these boring things that we've talked about today. Again, it's not when we get to pipelines, that's when you guys, repos and pipelines are like the heart of Azure DevOps. But again, they are all interconnected. If we jump straight to repos and pipelines, there are some tasks, like I said, would need to that you might in your pipelines or your repos now that you want to assign to. It's good to have a feel of how these things actually work in real life for proper understanding. So, is there anything anybody wants to add or ask before we draw the curtain for today?
No, but I would like to ask if we could have like a break in between, so it's not like a stretch for the 3 hours.
Okay. What exactly are you suggesting? We'll do an hour, take a break, and then do another hour.
Like maybe in the mid mark. So let's say like after we start at 6, then maybe 7:30. You just have like a short 10 minutes break, and then like now it's not bad because the concepts are not like we're not learning. Well, the concepts are not hard at
makes sense. Makes sense. But if we it makes sense. I would actually I'm literally dehydrated. I just didn't want to say, hold on, let me quickly get wow. So yes, I think that will work actually. Yes. makes sense. Oh, but if anybody needs to go do something, you can always just say, I mean, it doesn't have to be, you know, like setting stone like, okay, yes, we do 1 hour, 30 minutes. In between, it's not a large class, so you can always wait for, you know, to go and get a bottle of water to go ease himself. You know. So yeah, okay. I think going forward, we can always you know, take breaks in between instead of just sitting for 3 hours straight. But I must say, if you are, when we get to pipelines and then you are working on your workflow and it's not working, you might sit in front of your computer for the whole night trying to fix one line of code that is broken. So
Wait, when we get to that bridge, we'll cross it.
we'll cross it, Abby. Okay.
Yeah.
No wala. All right. Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. Belumi, do you have anything you want to add to this class?
Already asked earlier. I said I don't have anything to add.
I don't know. You might have maybe thought of something that you want to chip in for us. It's all right. Stella, are you fine with taking breaks in between?
It's okay.
Makes sense.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much for that suggestion. Once we end this class now, I'm running to the kitchen to go and get water to drink. It's should not go and be drinking of water. And it's okay. It's early on. All right. I'll send the video to this. I know Stella said she wants to maybe go back and then look at some of the terminology that's been used in this class. In 1 or 2 hours, the videos, I'll send it directly to your email, or I'll just share okay, yes, I'll upload it on YouTube and share with you guys.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your time and have a good night.
Thank you. You too.